Apple and everything. That's. We sure good?
It is loading.
The Apple back there.
We are live.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So, good evening, authority members, and good evening, staff, and good evening to any public who are watching today. I'm going to call the Governance and Personnel Committee of the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority's October 13th, 2022 meeting to order. The first thing we're going to do is approve the minutes from September 8th. However, I do have some corrections to make to the minutes from September 8th. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the minutes as they are in your agenda right now, and then I'm going to read them how they should be corrected. So what we're going to approve is the corrected minutes, but you're going to hear me read as they are now, and then correct it, and then we approve the corrected minutes. Okay. So what they say right now is Ms. Baynard went on to state that the General Assembly Rules Committee met for a special session this week to set limits on the number of bills members can introduce for 2023. For the Senate, that number is 26, and the House is 35. The corrected version is Ms. Baynard went on to state that the Senate Rules Committee met this week to set limits on the number of bills members can introduce for 2023. For the Senate, that number is 26. All right, and then the second bullet, which is bullet number 5, Chair Randall asked about the earlier discussed bridge bill and wanted to know if the bridge bill funding would be for only interstate bridges or if it could be used for bridges that connect to other states. Ms. Baynard stated that it's for Commonwealth-owned bridges only. What it should have stated was, Chair Randall asked if the earlier discussed bridge and want to know if the bridge funding would be only for intrastate bridges or if it would be used for bridges that connect to other states. Ms. Baynard stated that the Commonwealth-owned bridges, it was for Commonwealth-owned bridges only. So the second reading of both those is the corrected reading, and that is the motion that I make to put into the agenda. Motion's been seconded by Ms. Crystal. Discussion on the minutes.
You're really testing our memory. I would vote for it because I trust you.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? That motion will pass. I thought 401. Who's not here?
Yeah.
With Mr. McKay, 401 with Mr. McKay not being in the room. We plan on giving him a hard time when he comes in, as we should. All right, what we're going to do now is to discuss the initial recommendations for the draft 2023 LEDGE program. I will hand it over to Ms. Beckman and Ms. Baynard.
Well, Madam Chair, what I will note that in your packet is the initial staff recommendations for the 2023 legislative program. If it looks familiar to you, it's because this is first probably comprehensively what you adopted last year, with one notable exception. We did remove that support of committees being or public entities being able to meet virtually, since we do have that.
Okay.
But what we do have, and I'll turn it over to Ms. Baynard, we have the legislative priorities: protecting the dedicated revenue sources and powers of MBTA, restore long-term funding to MBTA. Just as a reminder, there's $38.5 million from the diversion of $102 million that we are still trying to recoup. Protect Virginia's transportation funding. That is also very important to not only the authority, but the region at large. And then support the use of effective transportation technology. And I will turn it over to Ms. Baynard to fill in some of the details.
Yeah, before you do that, let me ask a quick question. Ms. Baynard, in our legislative agenda for our county, what the way things are placed in the agenda is a purposeful priority order. Are you doing that also for this legislative agenda, or is everything in the same priority?
It's a priority order. Yes, in our priority order, like we had last year, which was protect our authority and our revenue sources, restore is number 2, protect state money is number 3, And the transportation technology is 4.
Okay,
So yes, so they are in priority order.
all right, thank you.
Sure. It is essentially on our priorities worded the same. I will draw your attention to restore long-term funding to the authority. We've always talked about that the restoration should be not additional taxes on the region. So if you will look on the second line of the first paragraph with the sentence starting, the authority favors, this is a slightly different wording of how we did this. And I'll read it out loud. The authority favors statewide revenue as the first source of funding or a larger state role in providing funding.
Where are you getting this from?
I'm sorry,
She,
3A.
yeah, the actual.
Oh,
program.
that's a bit, okay.
Yeah.
3A, I'm sorry.
I
So restore long-term funding, go to that section.
Okay.
Oh, I think,
Oh, that's
so,
allowed,
Ms.
okay.
yeah, she's reading from the attachment, which is
Yeah.
the actual
Yeah,
program.
yeah.
And it's this, okay.
So first paragraph, and then the second line, go to the sentence that starts with the authority favors. I'm sorry. The authority favors statewide revenue as the first source of funding, or, this is where the new language comes in, a larger state role in providing funding to the Metro Capital Fund. As you recall, and there's an attachment 3C in your packet, just to remind us, the Metro Capital Fund, the State of Good Repair Funding, substantially the bulk of that money, basically 2/3 of it, comes from our region. Even when it's not money that comes directly from the authority, if you include the money that's coming directly from the locality members, then you have the 10 cents on the grantors, you have the 3% transient occupancy tax. All of that is overwhelmingly what is going into that fund. If we could reorder that and the state picks up, so it's more like 50%, it would free up those existing funding sources, hopefully, to come back to us.
In cash?
Well, they diverted those two sources from us. If the state would have put more money into the 154, I think we could make a case that we could have them undiverted and some of that 10 cents grantors and or 3% TOT could come back into the authority packet. So the Metro would still have the 154.
Is that realistic?
It's an argument that we could make. I mean, let's be blunt. There's none of that going to happen this session because short session and a lot of budgetary issues are up front. But I do think as we continue to have this discussion, one of the ways that the state could continue is that they frankly take on a bigger share of the 154.
Basically asking them to do what they should have done in 2018.
Right. That's my concern.
I mean, I think all of this is near future, but I do, I mean, I think it is probably a pretty big lift to ask for statewide revenues to go to Northern Virginia Transportation.
Yeah, I mean,
I also think it's a little more money than just say give some money back. I think it's a lot. I think it's more confusing. I think it puts all the legislation at greater risk. I think it puts House Bill 2313 and greater risk of being opened up again. All those types of things versus we don't need our money back.
well, but again, our money coming back requires at least the thought is we always want to keep the 154 whole. So there's going to have to be a rebalancing somewhere. So either the state gives us the money directly or we get back revenue sources that come directly to us. You don't have to worry about a state appropriation. We just get some of our funding sources back.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
I think that she probably added that because that has, the other one is never going to happen. So this is one way of achieving what you want to happen to get some of our money back by saying the state steps in and the other stuff shifts over.
Well,
Is that
I
what
think
you're
it's as
calling it?
equally likely as getting statewide money to come directly to us. I think there is, and I think there's a lot of reasons why you can't have the conversation right now. The administration is still getting up to speed about Metro and has a lot of questions. But that being said, I do believe there's a logic to that is a logical way of getting to us getting our money back should not be additional taxes on us. And it's a very specific way of how it.
Is there a way to phrase the, excuse me, Madam Chair. Is there a way to phrase the position in a way that is broad enough to endorse that arrangement or any other that essentially says, Northern Virginia revenue sources should be dedicated to the improvement of regional transportation? We are operating with a nearly $40 billion gap from 2018, and the authority supports efforts to rebalance, reallocate, whatever funding in ways that reflect both the state's responsibility to the Metro Compact
Okay.
and our local dollars, having been earmarked in 2313 for
Local
region.
region.
regional.
We could sort of flip it a little bit and emphasize that.
Yeah.
We work on that.
You massage language. And this is the other question. So how much education has been done with the newer members of the General Assembly from the Northern Virginia region to even kind of, because it's, gosh knows if you represent any parts of Loudoun, you've been educated, because I talk about this all the time. But how much education has, because we've had quite a few new House members who weren't there when this happened. And so, one, I like Miss Crystal's approach, but also the reason I'm saying more, let's get our money back, because when we start having to, educate this many new members, a lot of new members about what we're trying to do and what happened and how, and grantor's tax and DOT tax and all that, it gets very difficult to take them back. How many years has that been now? 4 years, 4 years. And say, especially with all this going on right now.
So I would say that our Northern Virginia delegation is very well up to speed over what happened in 2018.
Even the new.
Partially
members.
we've had 2 years with them.
Right.
You've had 2 presentations at the delegation meeting on Monday during session, where that's always been part of it. They have gotten this. So I think our delegation is very well up to speed, and we had an even more ability to go into detail during the 2020 omnibus bill. Because again, that's when we get another chunk of our money back.
Okay.
And that was all predicated on them very much understanding how we got here and why we needed to fix it. So I'm comfortable that our delegation
Okay.
is very well up to speed over.
When you say our delegation.
I mean, Northern Virginia.
Northern Virginia delegation, that's the people who are in MBTA, who are in the delegation, and who are in the General Assembly. but the
Correct.
Northern Virginia delegation. Okay. Can we massage the words?
Yes, absolutely.
I continue to think our best foot forward for the reason suggesting this funding is to just make sure that members of the General Assembly, even if they don't fully understand what all went down in 2018, that they know we are short $40 million. Here are the projects in their districts that are being left on the table. We are very open-minded as to how you would like to figure this out. We support you in
We are.
figuring it out,
We are,
right? So I think that's probably the more important.
Yeah.
except that we don't want additional taxes.
So we don't want additional tax.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I thought they've already,
Yes.
I thought they've already done some additional taxes.
They did.
Raised rates.
We did. I
We
mean,
had
in
like, yeah, we.
2020, we got so again, we are, right,
Yeah.
we were a region that started out in 2018 with that 15 cents.
Yeah.
Transfers, we're now up to 20, so
Right.
like 10 and 10.
Right.
We were a 2% TOT uptick.
Right.
We're now 3. So one of the reasons we're like, okay, getting our own money, it does not mean
We taxing ourselves.
we testing ourselves again.
I did,
Again.
right, yeah.
I mean, that's,
Mike said that.
We were
So
taxing
many
ourselves and now we've given some of it away.
And-
And then we
You know,
tax
we're still
ourselves.
taxing ourselves.
right, to get it,
I was there, that's why.
to get it back, yeah, so it's, we're like, okay, we've gone to the well twice, we don't want to do it again.
The
Right.
only other thing I worry about too is when you think about the revenue sources, those have been pretty unstable sources of revenue. And I worry especially because TOT revenue, about your hotels that are collapsed during the pandemic, and TOT crater, and then think about the impacts of interest rates. We have on grantors tax.
Right. Who's going gangbusters
I mean,
for a while. but it's gonna
yeah.
happen.
Yeah, I mean, the best thing we have going for us is we have that sales tax and it's ours.
Yeah, that's all.
It's not going anywhere.
People still need stuff.
Yeah. So I'll massage that and bring that,
Okay.
send it out and
Sounds
bring it
good.
back
All
for,
right, that's
for
great.
next month.
Great.
Thank
Anything
you.
else in here we need to?
No, just I'm starting the calendar of the session, which I know you all like to get. We're in the pre-filed bills stage right now. There's very few bills have been pre-filed. I expect that will accelerate as we get to November and December, as it always does.
And just to go into the corrections on the minutes, it is 26 for the Senate,
We don't yet, and we don't have a limit yet for the House.
for the House, okay, but we will.
I don't know. They don't know when to do that.
Because usually, isn't the Senate usually no limits and the House has limits?
It's been back and forth. It's been back and forth, so I'm hoping the Senate will do a limit, but they just haven't made a decision.
Okay.
That's all I sort of have from a session perspective, unless anybody has any questions on anything.
No, just a procedural question, Madam Chair. Are we reporting out on this tonight or are we going to see another draft?
No, this comes back to you in the November meeting, and that will be sent up to the full authority after that.
I was just, I think, I'll read the verbiage a little bit more, but transportation technology is really, I think, kind of groundbreaking what MBTA is talking about and how and why. And I don't know that, I think there are a lot of organizations and groups, as we talk about, transit money versus road money versus this versus that. I was talking to PEC to them, and I said, I consider like zip car sharing and electric car sharing, all that, I consider that transit, right? And so, the reason I asked about the order, because I was thinking that, do I want to reorder transportation technology because it's so important, but truthfully, everything here is important.
Yeah.
It's all important.
Yeah, I mean,
So I don't want to reorder it.
one of the decisions you all made last year was to take the larger document and say, can we just have a finite number? That's
Yeah,
really our
it's all
focus
important. It's all
for
important.
the session.
And listen, it's small enough that we can, when we go down there, we can hit all these topics. We can, with lots of clarity, so, okay.
I might ask one more thing.
Sure.
Our next meeting is November, for this committee is November.
9th?
Or 13th.
November 10th.
And
November 10th.
Because it says next steps, November 13th, 2022.
Oh, that is a typo.
I guess we're under right here.
No, it's November 10th.
Okay, well, then it's wrong in here. I always get stuff like that. It's just what I do, sorry.
Well, it's on your calendar. I mean, for the schedule, that's important.
Okay, but what is Baco guys?
October sometime. I have it on.
Okay, then we're good.
Oh, it's right after October 11th and 12th. 13th, like starts October 13th.
Baco this,
Yeah, 13th, 14th, 15th, something like that.
early this year then.
That's
Oh, okay. The next.
November
Oh,
13th.
sorry, November.
I was like saying, it's not today.
I know. It's only November 13th and it's 12, 13. Yeah, no, it starts on 13th.
You're like, what?
So I'm already into December.
That's right. I so true though.
Skip November.
What's happening in your head?
This is, yeah, I'm way.
You're way ahead. Scheduling things in December.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
then we're good. Anything else? No. Here we go.
We're supposed to be done with it.
Oh, we're doing that after, we're doing that with the full, yeah. But first of all, let's adjourn this meeting. We are adjourned.
Do you want us down there 15 minutes before 7?
Yeah,
Okay.
and we're gonna try to conclude finance. And we're going over, for those of you on finance committee, we're meeting in a small conference room across the hall. For those of you who are not, we have food in the back.
So I was saying, oh, the story, yeah, that story got me through this one thing, and I just started saying, you know, this is why I do what I do, because I got to do this. And, okay, fast forward a month and a half, and so I did a proclamation, and got everybody in the voice, and like, everybody, we're gonna, just because I usually